We now talk about something that's a buzzword today. We all have heard of the term big data, but what does this really mean? Let's welcome our next speaker to talk about what big data is and its future. So we welcome Mr. Narendra Sengupta, VP of Banking and Capital Markets Practice for Insights and Data, representing one of the largest names in the technology sector, Capgemini. Mr. Sengupta has more than 2 decades of extensive technology consulting experience at leadership levels in strategy, analytics, business intelligence, visualization, MDM, and digital transformation. He has also worked with the big fours like Deloitte, E&Y in leadership roles. He has helped set up the enterprise analytics, digital data strategy for various organizations and focused on consultative selling, developing, and practice building. He brings in a strong relationship and network in the current marketplace and strong global experience, working in countries like India, USA, and Japan, and serving multiple local and global clients. So welcome, Mr. Sengupta. The stage is all yours.
Thank you, Maya. Thanks for the fantastic introduction, and thanks for the opportunity. So good morning, everyone. As Maya introduced myself, I am Narendra Sengupta. I lead the banking and capital markets data and insight practice for Capgemini. So a very happy Republic Day. And so here, let me share my screen, and Maya, do let me know if you're able to.
Yes, sir, we can see your screen.
Right. So today's topic is big data the future? So today, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to bore you to death with multiple slides, but I'm going to focus on few key things, right? Which is going to be the key takeaways. It's 26 January. It's 20 minutes, 26 minutes of session at least, and you are investing your time. I expect that at least you get 3 key takeaways out of this session. So I'm not going to, there is so much of information on big data on the web, but my session of the next 25 minutes, considering 1 minute is already gone now, is going to focus on the, the considerations, what is making big data successful, how organizations are getting and society are getting impacted. That's the focus I'm going to have, right? So let me start with a joke, right? And you will see this in a lot of the boardrooms or in our discussions. Like in the boardroom, everybody says, let's solve the problem by using the big data, the cartoon on the left. But many people don't have an idea that what is big data and what it takes to solve big data and declare victory, right? Similarly, if you look on the right hand side, it says, probably we have not scaled in big data, but we have scaled in our stupidity, right? So just on a lighter note, but getting into the context and today's session, I'm expecting there would be 3 key takeaways that you would have out of this session, right? The first one is big data is not just about collecting data. It is not about technology. It is an outcome that you get by implementing big data that's defined as success. And while I'm talking through the session, I'll make sure that I reiterate the key takeaway, which is very, very important for us who is pursuing this field or want to make a difference to the clients or to the society or to the planet, right? And we'll talk about it. The second, the capabilities needed to make big data success. It's just not technology. It is also about different capabilities, which every organization, which people have started realizing that, you can't just be a technical guy and solve a business problem. It requires a team. It requires a team of different capabilities to solve the business problem. And the third most important thing is with big data, sorry for the typo, comes responsibility, trust, and ethics. And I'll cite some examples. There is a speed at which big data is moving, but there are some few speed breakers also on the way that we have to be really worried about. So let's get started with the session. So we are hearing that we are constantly bombarded with saying that the data is increasing, and you look at any website, you look at any place, we keep on hearing data is increasing from terabytes to petabytes to zettabytes and so on and so forth, right? But when it comes to big data, it's just not about the size of the data, it's also at the speed at which the data is moving, right? And you hear these terms like real-time data, batch data, that's the speed. And it is also the variety of data that you are coming across, right? And when I say variety of data, it could be an audio data, it could be visual data, it could be text data, and so on and so forth, right? And by definition, and I'll not repeat what the definition is, it's the 5 V's. You search on big data, people say big data is all about 5 V's, right? So what is happening is, and basically integrating them to make a context from it to enable business, enable organizations, enable society to get the benefit about it, right? And I want to say it in double quotes, that it is about the contextual insights that you get out of the data that you're collecting defines the success. And I'll take you through some examples to help you relate to when I say that, what it means and why I'm saying that, right? And you saw the cartoon on the first page, right, where everybody is saying that, hey, you know what, we have big data but we have challenges. Now if you do your research, or if you look at the website, you will see 60 to 70% of the organizations claim that we have adopted big data, but most of them, very few of them, let me put it the other way, very few of them can declare victory. And you know what the reason is? Because the interpretation of big data is very different. People feel that, now I have Hadoop, I have Spark, I have big data, but it's not about having Hadoop and Spark which defines big data. It is about how, and I'll basically, the success of big data, and this is very important, one of the key takeaways which I feel, and I thought I should flash it out. The success of big data is not just about more data, but it is to how it allows you to see new, how it allows you to see different, and how it allows you to see better. That's what defines success, right? And the question comes is like, I'll go to the back to the topic, is big data the future? Of course it's the future. And why? Because we are seeing that data is getting generated more and more. And I'll give you a very simple perspective, how data is getting generated. And I'll take a very, very simple example. uh, Everybody uses Google Map, right? How is it making our life easy? How is it helping with its outcome? How is it helping us to get the right direction? If I flash back 15 years back, location was always there. I remember, from Mumbai to Pune, when I was traveling, I used to have, if I lost the way, I used to ask the local panwala or the shopkeeper, hey, how do I go to the destination? So guess what? The information was there. The information was sitting with the shopkeeper. The information was sitting with the panwala. But what has happened is, now all this information is getting datafied, double quotes, datafied, right? So what is happening is we are getting more and more contextual information, which is helping us to get more informed decision, right? I just took the example of, the how the location information got datafied. But just if you look around, every aspects of our life, everything that we are coming across is getting datafied. Guess what? It's a fantastic problem to have, because right now we only had organization data, but now we are getting external data, what we call as alternate data, to basically do a further analysis and then make it better, right? So it's important that, coming back to the factor that, how big data is helping organizations, right? And I'll take very simple examples, but I will tell you like how big data is impacting our planet, how it is impacting health, and so on and so forth. So you must have read multiple use cases, right? Organizations are using big data to give personalized experience to their customers so that they can cross sell, upsell. All those case studies are there. But let me talk about some examples which I feel is very exciting, and it's going to be very exciting for you as well, is how big data is saving the planet. And I'll take a banking experience here, considering that, I'm in this field. So there is this, we have been hearing about, is the earth as a planet going to be there for the next 50 years, 70 years, 90 years, right? And why this indication? These are the symptoms which came our way, because we thought, what, the temperature is increasing, maybe the ozone layer is depleting, right? So on and so forth. But what has happened over a period of time, the weather data got datafied, the temperature got datafied, the carbon emission data got datafied. Now we are looking at the data. Now it is triggering the thought, you know what? The situation is not really good. We'll have to really do something. So what is the banking industry doing in terms of, which is a very important trend, somebody who is into the banking industry, but it's true for the other industry as well, is something called as ESG, environmental sustainability and governance, right? What does that mean is, and it's a very complex problem to solve, but I'm just trying to make it easy for the audience to understand. What happens is, what is happening is, in the banking industry, the regulators are basically telling the banks and the investment companies to publish a ESG score. And what is a ESG score? A ESG score is that if I'm a bank, right, and I'm the bank who is giving loans to data mining industries, right? If I'm giving a loan to, industries which is polluting the environment, right? High chances, if my loan portfolio is 70%, the ESG score would be lower, right? What happens in the result is, now as responsible citizens, I'm assuming, which we are, right, and the millennials who are caring about the environment, they look at the ESG score of the bank and say, oh, if the ESG score is low, do I need to do a transaction with the bank, right? Or if the ESG score is high, I should do a transaction with the bank, right? So what is happening is, with big data, with the data that we are generating, and with the insights that we are getting, it's making everybody responsible in terms of taking decisions and saving the planet, right? One classic example where, as I said, we heard about a lot of use cases, but I feel these are the use cases which is the latest trend, and sustainability is the talk of the town, if you will, right, for every industry. So with this data, with the technology and so on and so forth, we are seeing this changes happening in the banking world. There are a lot happening. ESG. Similarly for healthcare, right? You are seeing how big data is changing healthcare. If you look at healthcare, we are looking at personalized medicines, we are looking at innovations and so on and so forth. And I want to come back to the topic of contextual data and outcomes, which I feel is very important. Bear with me, I'll keep repeating this. And I'll give you a very simple and like a little light example here in the healthcare. So there was one of these examples in the healthcare where, one of the hospitals decided, let's come up with a smoking stop plan, right? The guys who are smokers, let's try to come up with a process and a path which can help them to stop smoking. So they took the data, right? All the data, they did the analysis, and they started using the treatment to stop smoking, and they realized that the success was only 50%. Guess what? They started, why? While we had a lot of data, we did analysis, we figured out what it takes to do this, stop the smoking, but still we are not seeing the outcome that we expected. And that's where the contextual information started coming in. They started realizing, when you're looking at smoking as a problem, is it a cigarette smoking? Is it a BD smoking? Is it a wick smoking? Is it a, reed smoking, right? So there is a context which got added to the smoking. And as the context and the alternate data, which I say, starts getting into the mix of the data, probably the outcome becomes very different, right? The path that you're going to take very different, right? And that's where, when I say that, which was my second point, that you need to have different capabilities to solve the problem, it comes into play. So it is not just about the technology. Now you are seeing in big data teams that you are having creative writers, creative thinkers, data storytellers, psychologists, because it is just not solving, and subject matter experts. Sorry, I missed the important component. All of these capabilities are being used in organizations to form a team and get the data, look at the context, and define the outcome, right? Hopefully that takes or caters to the first key takeaway, that big data is just beyond the tools and technology. It is about the context and the outcome. Now let me get because while big data is a technology component, I can't stay away of giving a context around the technology and the aspect of it. Now, what has changed with big data? It is the way we go about doing the analysis. Now, again, let's flash back a little bit. 10 years back, what we used to do is data used to get landed on our OLAP system. Data used to get landed on our OLTP system like Oracle or some other database, and then data warehouses. And we used to go and, do the analysis and take the decisions. And here I'm going to stress on one thing that yeah, sorry. Here I'm going to stress on one thing about the decision is we used to take the decisions, and the decisions used to be based on our understanding. That's what it was. Now, what big data has done is it has taken away, not taken away, it has improved that you just don't want to do an analysis on the stationary data, but you have to start your analysis from the origin of data. And I'll give another example why I say that. And just to understand, when I say that you have to do an analysis of data since it is originated until it is stationary, let's take a debit card example, right? I go to the ATM, I swipe the debit card. Probably I'm swiping the debit card, or somebody else is swiping the debit card. My withdrawal limit is 20,000, right? The bank knows that when Narendra is withdrawing, it's 20,000. Suddenly, in one day, it was a withdrawal of 50,000. In the old world, what used to happen is, as soon as I withdraw 50,000, it used to come through the router to the database, and I do an analysis. Hey, you know what? There is a fraud. Seems there is a fraud, but the time to react was less because we have already spent like 2 to 3 minutes in terms of taking an action. So what basically organizations and banks and started realizing, probably you have to move the analysis not at the stationary but closer to the customer, closer to the ATM, right? That's where you might have heard edge computing started. Right now what happens is I swipe my debit card. If there is a fraud, there is a small compute program sitting at the edge which does the analysis, sends out a SMS, calls of the customer, and takes care of the fraud, right? So that's a classic example where how big data has come up with tools and technologies to help you with real-time analytics, batch analytics, the data in motion analytics, and so on and so forth. Now I'll give you a classic example that big data is about, and this is what it is. Big data is a field that treats and helps you to do analysis, right? And I'll give you a classic example what technology companies are doing. You must have heard tons of tools that is coming in the market. And when you are solving a problem, a business problem, you always start from the right. You look at the business problem, then go to the big data architecture, then you look at what tools and technologies come into play. And I'll give another example in the banking industry, again on fraud. So what used to happen is, and what still happens, a bank gives away a loan. And when the bank gives away a loan, they take a guy who is a guarantor, right? And they, over a period of time, they realize that probably is there one guarantor who is defaulting and is creating a fraud? But there was no way to solve the problem easily. People used to write complex queries. People used to write difficult complex programs to get the solved. The technology companies, or some of the companies, started thinking, how do I solve this use case? Because I need a view where I can see a network, and I can know whether this guarantor is giving guarantee to 20 people. If he's giving a guarantee to 20 people, I have to monitor the other 19 to basically avoid fraud. And that's where graph database started coming into place. Now you have Neo4j and all of that, which is helping to solve that business outcome, right? Team, so please realize that there are things that you have to take care of. And I don't know, Maya, how much time I have.
So we have time, and there are some one or two very interesting questions also which I would like to cover. So maybe you can carry on for 2-3 more minutes, and then I can ask you the questions.
Sure. Okay, fantastic. And I'll try to I'll try to cover few more key topics. So coming back to the topic is that how technology is helping solve the big data problem. The other thing what has happened is when the data started growing, as big data, we started having data, the challenge was the resourcing. And that's where the architectures also started evolving. If you again go back, we had on-premise architecture, right? which was all about vertical scaling. I had huge amount of data, but my machines, when my CPUs, my memory, what's not scaling. I couldn't do something which is now called AI/ML, which requires huge amount of data to learn, right? And basically tell you what needs to be done, right? And that's where you see, when it within the context of big data, the architectures have started evolving. From on-premise, you start now having hybrid architectures, you have public cloud architectures, right? And that's where the thought process is. The good news is, the cloud companies have helped us to scale, right, at low cost, if you will. And also, it within no time you can scale and help with the business outcome, right? So definitely that is something you have to keep in your mind, that when you're solving a big data problem, you have the technologies to solve use cases that is pertinent to a planet, to a client, to a business, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, you need infrastructure, you need to scale, and that there is a provision to do that, right? So two more things, and then I'll stop for questions. And I feel it is very important now, which I said in the first key takeaways are the showstoppers. Before I go to the showstopper, now one thing which has changed is, and when I was talking, I said let's underline this. Sometime before, we used to look at the data, we used to take decisions, but now with AI/ML coming in, with the scalability coming in, what is happening is, from we telling the computer what to do, we are throwing data to the code, which is the AML code, and the computer is telling us that what needs to do. The whole perspective has changed, right? What we call as predictive analytics, and so on and so forth. Now comes to the last topic, which I feel is extremely important as responsible big data developers, SMEs, contributors to the big data implementation, is the whole privacy aspect of it, right? And that's a bit of a showstopper, or maybe it's slowing down the growth for some of the industries like banking and healthcare, where the sensitivity of the data is very, very important. And each countries have their laws and regulations to ensure that, how to take care of the privacy. And I'll just give a classic example which we are feeling, which we are facing day in and day out. When I Google or I do something, I get messages, hey, why don't you go to this restaurant, why don't you do this, why don't you do that? Sometimes I feel that probably Google knows more about myself rather than me, right? And it's a scary thing, right? Definitely it's a scary thing. And that's where the privacy part comes into picture. It is and this is a very simple example, but look at the healthcare data, look at the banking data. If the privacy has not been taken care of, the whole trust in the solutions and goes futile. So again, the good news is, as responsible citizens, we need to know the regulations of every country. We need to know what are the privacy data, have that incorporate as a part of our solution and programming. Now, I'll close this with two thoughts, right? The good news is, and maybe some of you might have read about it. What the cloud companies are doing is they're coming up with industry cloud. Again, like, we are fantastic in, basically we are fantastic in, coining terms. There is this whole term about industry cloud, right? So what they are doing is they are saying we will have a financial industry cloud, we'll have a telecommunication industry cloud. What is it all about? In the financial industry cloud, for example, they say what we will do is we'll create the base framework. We will have securities defined. We will tell what, based on the countries and regulations, we will define and make things configurable. And hey, client, or hey, companies, you can start developing programs on top of that, because we have taken care of this privacy and the security. Good news. Of course, this is the start of the journey of the industry cloud, but the good news is the innovation that is happening to basically speed this up. To end my session, I would say big data is a big deal, right? It goes to the topic that definitely there is a future. The data is not going to stop, it's going to grow. But as it says in the the Marvel movies, I'm not a big fan of Marvel, but I like some of the dialogues they have. It's like, with power comes responsibility, right? So we have the power, we have the data, let's make a good use of it, and but use it responsibly, right? So thank you. I hope, like, on a holiday, on a on the 26th of January, I hope I could make some difference and help you with some outcomes. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely, Mr. Sengupta. That was fantastic. I'll just quickly tell you, we have two questions that we would love to cover today. So
Sure.
the first one is, can you explain in short the difference between big data, data analytics, and data science? This question is from Moses.
Okay. So, Moses, like, in fact, coincidentally, just look at the screen that is flashed right now, right? And probably I'll start answering from that. What big data is, I was trying to cover that as an example. It's not a tool or technology, but it's a field. And this is a wiki definition, by the way. I feel it is a very classic example which takes away the, the cloud that we have in our understanding. So big data is a field that treats way to analyze, systematically extract information and get the outcome out of it, right? So big data is the whole concept. It is all about how you go about analyzing the data. Analytics is basically the tool that you are using to solve a big data problem. AI/ML is a tool or a concept using Python and R, which you're using to solve a big data problem, right? Because, and I'll give you an example again of AI/ML. Like, you train the models, right? And you will require huge amounts of data. The concept of huge amount of data, which is big data, stays, right? You have to do the analysis of data, which AI/ML tools like R and Python does it, and helps you to a predictable outcome, right? So that's how it is. Big data is a concept, if you will, and analytics and the AI/ML is the way to get the insights into the using the concept. Hope that answers
Super.
your question, Moses.
Superb. I think that was crystal clear. The second question we want to cover is, we are making, this question is from Sunil. We are making everything datafied. Now, this has a consequence, right? You interact with people less. So he's basically saying, for example, you would have asked the pan wala, but now, you don't need to. So it's, you're losing. So he says, we are losing human relationships, and it's something, it's thought provoking, right? It's something that we need to ponder on. So Mr. Sengupta, your take on that.
Yeah, definitely. Like, probably you asked me a philosophical question. Yeah, it's a philosophical question, but you are right, and you are right. But let's also accept the fact, personal view, and everybody might have a different opinion. Let's accept the fact that technology has made us less human centric. And if I look at the millennials, right, and nothing to do with the millennials, I would like to hear feedback from this, right? Because I am learning. I don't have a solution, by the way. I'm giving a philosophical answer to this one. Uh, what has happened is I've seen people are getting comfortable, communicating over the phones. I have seen, like, even in homes, like, my kid, when their friends come, I sometimes guess, are they saying hello even over the phone, right? Sitting next to each other, even instead of talking. And I don't know. You're right. It's basically taking away the whole human emotional touchiness, but probably that's what it is, right? Probably that's what we have to change ourselves. Probably that's how the transformation is happening. Again, a philosophical answer, but as I said, I would love to hear your feedback. I'd love to learn from you as well.
So wow, this was super, super insightful. And I can see our audience is overwhelmed to have had this opportunity to listen to you. We've definitely learned a lot in this session. So thank you for joining us, Mr. Sengupta, and sharing your thoughts with our audience. If there are any more questions, Mr. Sengupta, we'll email them to you and we can have all of them answered.
Yep, absolutely. And people who are on LinkedIn, you can definitely reach out to me. It's, as I said, I like to do learning. I think that is the only thing which I feel is constant. Ideas, thoughts, right? Definitely, please reach out to LinkedIn as well. Thank you. Thanks for
Superb.
the opportunity. I hope
Superb
it was
audience. So
useful.
that's a great takeaway for you, audience. I think there's nothing more we can ask for, right?